Guys, L'chaim, welcome. But today is a very special day. Does anyone know why? Today is 5th day of Av. So today is the Yom Hilulu of the Arizal. The day the Arizal passed from this world and moved on to the next world. Does everyone know who the Arizal is? Mm-hmm. Well, it was the beginning, the actual, after Shimon Bar Yochai, the person who wrote the Zohar, the Arizal, he actually came out for the Ramak, but he's known as the foremost spreading of Kabbalah in history. So before we talk a little bit about the Arizal, I want to talk to you guys about drugs. With that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about the Arizal, and then I'll explain to you guys the connection between the Arizal and doing drugs. So first of all, who is the Arizal? The Arizal was born in L'chaim. He was born in I believe the 1500s, the middle 1500s, in Jerusalem. It's said by the time the Arizal was 15, he knew the whole entire Gemara, the whole Shas, the whole Mishnah. He knew everything so good that he was like at levels infinite higher than any of his teachers. And then he got a hold of the Zohar from Shimon Bar Yochai. And he spent 6 years locked in by himself, learning the Zohar, and then he continued learning more Kabbalah and more Torah. They said that the Arizal, he reached a level that he was so holy, that he was so removed from this world, that first of all, I mentioned earlier, after the first founder of Kabbalah, which is Shimon Bar Yochai, who was the author of the Zohar, after him, the Zohar, if anyone's ever learned any of the Zohar, it's a very cryptic book. I mean, there's very deep secrets inside of it, but it wasn't originally drafted to be meant to spread out to the masses. It was meant for a small group of people to learn. People were connected to Shimon Bar Yochai. And then afterwards, the teachings entered in the world in a wider level. The Ramak, which was in Tzfat, started spreading out the teachings of the Zohar even on a higher level. And the Arizal actually wound up moving to Tzfat from Jerusalem and became a student of the Ramak. And the Ramak died shortly thereafter, and then the Arizal basically took over and is known as, besides Shimon Bar Yochai, or the founder of Kabbalah, as the foremost spreader of Kabbalah and understander of Kabbalah in the history of Judaism. It said before the Arizal was born, his father was a very, very holy man. And he was in shul one day, and he saw a vision of Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi came to him, and he said, "You should know your son, your wife is going to be pregnant with a son, and it's a neshama that is on such a high level that when he enters the world, he's going to bring the world to a whole new level of reality and a whole new level of existence, and he's going to bring about the tikkun, or the repair, of many, many souls that have never been able to be fixed before his time." He said the only condition is from Shemaim, you have to name him Yitzchak. And the Eliyahu Hanavi said to the Arizal's father, he said, "You should know that I need to be the sandak at your baby's bris. At the bris, there's someone who holds the baby at the time of the circumcision, which is the sandak. And Eliyahu Hanavi said, no matter what, just have to promise me that I'll be the sandak." He said, "No problem." So his wife, sure enough, became pregnant. Sure enough, they gave birth to a baby boy. The father of the Arizal didn't say anything to his wife and to anyone about his visit from Eliyahu Hanavi. And when he was born, sure enough, the father brought him, and they're at the shul, and everyone was waiting to do the bris. And the moil, everyone was set ready to go, but Eliyahu Hanavi hasn't shown up yet. So the father's sitting there, and everyone's like, "Well, who's going to be the sandak?" And he's like, "We have to wait for a little while." And it was over an hour, and he still didn't show up. And the father went in the back and started crying. He said, "I must have done something wrong. I must have sinned. I must have caused a blemish to stop Eliyahu Hanavi from coming." And at that moment, Eliyahu Hanavi showed up. He said, "No, chas v'shalom, you didn't cause any blemish. You're a holy man. And as I promised, I'm going to be the sandak." So the father actually sat down on the chair, Eliyahu Hanavi's chair, and they gave him the baby. And Eliyahu Hanavi said to the father, "Before you sit down, you should know I'm going to sit down first. No, I'm sorry. You're going to sit down, then I'm going to sit on your lap." So he sat down, and Eliyahu Hanavi sat on his lap. And no one in the entire bris milah saw Eliyahu Hanavi except for the Arizal's father. And at the time they sat there, and the Moel came and went through the whole process, and no one knew besides the Arizal's father, Eliyahu Hanavi, was there. And sure enough, he got born and brought into the world. And that remained a secret for many years. No one knew exactly what it was. So the Arizal reached a level of understanding godliness so high, he said that when he would see someone, he would, in a glance, in that amount of time, be able to tell you where the root of your soul is from Adam Arishon. So you know that all of our souls originate from the first man, from Adam Arishon. Before the sin, we were all connected in one man. And after the sin, everything got separated, good and evil got mixed together. But every Jew is connected to 600,000 letters of the Torah, or root parts of the soul of Adam Harishon, of the first man. And the Arizal used to be able to look at people and tell what part of Adam Harishon they were from. From an important organ, a less important organ, a high soul, a low soul. Not only that, he would be able to look into their foreheads and tell them exactly who they were a Gilgul of. Where it says only Tzaddikim are new souls. That all of us, which are far from Tzaddikim, are reincarnations of previous souls. So our soul has entered into the world dozens, maybe hundreds of times, constantly rectifying and fixing things that weren't fixed in previous reincarnations, or Gilgulim. So the Arizal would be able to look at someone and basically tell them why they're here, what they need to fix, where they came from, who they're a reincarnation of, just like in a split second. And they said that the difference between him and many other prophets is many other prophets, in order to enter a stage of prophecy, they used to have to sit and really like force Ruach HaKodesh upon them, enter like a very elevated state. Said sometimes remove their clothes, like it was a very big preparation to get prophecy. But the Arizal said it had prophecy like we have speech. Like at any given second, he could just see anything from one end of the world to the other, know anything that's going on with any person and any time. He just reached levels of godliness and holiness that besides Shimon Bar Yochai weren't reached before his time. So the Arizal, as we know, was the founder, truly the founder of what became what we know as today as Chassidut, or Chassidus. The Baal Shem Tov's teachings came from Chassidut. The Chassidut came from the teachings of the Arizal. That before this time, the secrets of the Torah remain hidden. Meaning, everyone's heard of Kabbalah. And I'm not talking about the Kabbalah Madonna learns, I mean the real Kabbalah. There was a time that Kabbalah was not allowed to be spread. Anyone know why Kabbalah wasn't allowed to be spread?
Either the people.
Actually, there's three main reasons that are brought down why Kabbalah was not allowed to be studied by the masses. At one point in time, first of all, the Kabbalah, it's true, is at such a high level that for one reason in and of itself, the scholars felt that Jews who hadn't reached a very high level of learning Gemara, of being so connected inside the Torah and knowing the written and the oral Torah so well, they didn't have the ability to comprehend these high levels of spirituality. And as a result, they weren't fitting for it, and they didn't deserve it. It's like giving someone the dessert before the food. The second reason Kabbalah wasn't spread was the teachings of the Arizal especially, they were very sexual in nature. Meaning everything is alluded to, God is alluded to the male figure, and the Jewish people to the female figure. And if you read Shir Hashirim or a lot of Chassidus, and a lot of Kabbalah, especially the Kabbalah of the Arizal, it's given in terms of men and women. And there's actual discussions in the Arizal's Kabbalah what appears to be sexual connotations. But it's really the best way of explaining the connection between God and the Jewish people. But a lot of people who aren't trained at such a high level would mistake it as like straight up sex, and it wouldn't comprehend, and they wind up doing things that we're not supposed to be doing. Another reason is that the teachings of the Kabbalah speak in terms of Hashem as having an arm, an eye. It says Hashem's right hand, His left hand, His ears, His thoughts, His speech. To people who learn Chassidut, which is actually the higher level of Kabbalah, which was revealed later from the Baal Shem Tov, we realize that when it talks about Hashem's brain, or His mochin, or His chokhmah, we don't picture a physical brain. We understand that that's God's wisdom, as we could come to understand it. So that being said, the teachings of the Arizal, actually, were very, very high Kabbalistic concepts, but in a way connect to every single one of us in our avodas Hashem, in our learning of Hashem.